All right, welcome back. So this video is about sort of a weird topic called truthiness and falsiness. I wasn't sure how to spell falsiness, so I just left it off, but it's about both. So we established in the last video that in a conditional check, in a conditional statement, there's an expression, and it always evaluates to be true or false. So there's no gray area in between. So this is slightly new. This isn't really the focus of the video though, but there's something called is that we'll talk about actually in a future video. It's very similar to double equal sign where we check for equality, but there's a slight difference. But in this example, x is equal to 1, so we have variable x, set it to 1. When we run x is 1, we get true, and x is 0 or any other number, we get false. There's no gray area in between, it's yes or no. So this is a truthy expression, and this is a falsy expression. So that's pretty straightforward, but really what this video is about is that values on their own, single individual values, not full expressions like this, they can have, or they do have, an inherent truthiness or falsiness. I feel like I'm, talking about like politicians or something, talking about truthiness and falsiness, but here's a couple of examples. So things that are naturally false on their own include empty strings, and I'm going to demonstrate all of this, the value none, which we briefly touched on, and 0, the number 0. So those all on their own are false. So when I say that they're false on their own, it doesn't mean that just by referencing 0, the entire thing is going to be false. Let me open up Python 3 here. I could do something like this. Let's say if I did just if 0, very bland. And by the way, I'm going to do a conditional statement in the REPL here in the shell. You can do that, and it will basically force you to go to a new line when I hit enter. And it gives me the 3 dots saying I'm waiting. So I'm going to indent, and I'll just do a print, yay. It doesn't really matter what we put here. So this print will only run if this is truthy, if this evaluates to true, and all we have is 0. So on its own, I have to hit enter one more time, by the way, to tell Python, okay, I'm done. And nothing prints. But if I try that whole thing again, and I change it to the number 1, and this time I do print, yay, question mark, hit enter one more time because I need to tell Python I'm done, it prints yay. So what does this tell us? It tells us that this expression, even though it's just the number 1 on its own is truthy. It has a default inherent truthiness to it. And 0 has an inherent falsiness to it because we didn't get this print. So why does this really matter? Well, it's good to know about, but we can take advantage of it. So here's a quick example from the sort of real world, a real example at least, where we could take advantage of the inherent truthiness and falsiness of values. So what I'm going to do now is make a new file, and I'm just going to call it truthiness.py. So in here we'll ask for input, and we'll just ask for enter your favorite animal. Something silly like this. And at the end, we'll just write something like print, let's save this to a variable, we'll just call it animal, and we'll just say print animal plus is my favorite too. So I know this is very trivial at the moment, but we're getting input and we're printing it back out. Let's just make sure that part works. So I'm going to run Python 3 truthiness, enter your favorite animal. I'm going to say it's a newt, and it says newt is my favorite too. But there's this edge case where I could say enter your favorite animal, and I just hit enter, and we just get blank is my favorite too. So it's an empty string is the value of animal because we didn't enter anything in. So what we could do is up here add a conditional check, and we just say if animal, just like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'll print animal is my favorite too. So this single line, we're not checking if animal is equal to something, we're just saying if animal at all, if it exists. And the only reason this works is because strings any string that isn't empty is truthy. But if it's empty, it's falsy. So if animal is empty, then this won't execute. So we could add our else if we wanted to, super simple, and just say print, you didn't say anything, just like that. And let's see what happens. Enter your favorite animal. I just hit enter. Empty string triggers, you didn't say anything. And if I say instead salamander, no, too close to a newt. Goat. Goat is my favorite too. Great. All right, so what I'm just trying to show you is that you'll see this occasionally, not just with animal, but where values are checked to see if they exist. And that the way that works depends on inherent truthiness and falsiness of values. So to sum that up, empty strings and 0 are the two most common, as well as empty objects. We haven't talked about objects yet, but it helps to know those are also falsy. So basically anything that's empty or 0, or the actual value none, capital N none, the special Python value, we haven't addressed much yet either, but we do know it exists. All right, so those are all inherently falsy. Everything else is truthy.